Some of y'all are going to be upset with me after this video. I have an entirely different point of view than many YouTubers do, than many so-called Black Americans do in this day and time, because you have so many so-called Black Americans that operate on emotions without taking time out to think and look at the whole picture. You allow your emotions to control you, to run you, to make bad choices and decisions, and then you find yourself or your children in situations like in this article. Police pepper sprayed 9-year-old girl in Rochester, New York. Now, I watched the video, and from my experience dealing with young people, today we're dealing with an entirely different spirit when it comes to young people. You can't allow age to cloud your choices and decisions. Now, I'm assuming that the mother was the one that called the police on this little girl. Keep in mind, she did not call the father. Now, the father, I assume, was in this girl's life, because throughout the video, the girl kept calling for her dad while she was acting out. Now, this video kind of touched my heart, so I'm going to read a portion of the article first. But then there's a lot of questions that came to my mind, and it's interesting that we have so many young people now that's against the moms. What is up with all this outbursts and outlashes against the mothers? I did a video about the little white kid that was cursing his moms out because of the fact that he felt she was the reason why she and his father split up. I shared a story about when I went to check on my son in school, and the little white kid that his parents was going through a divorce and he was acting out in school. And I'm assuming he was acting out against his moms. Now, this is not saying that they don't love the moms. Of course they love the moms. But there's a special bond that young people, especially little girls, have with their fathers, right? So there's so much anger and bitterness against mothers in this day and time. And I'm assuming that this is another couple that more than likely split up. And I'm not going to blame it on the pandemic like a lot of people do, but during this pandemic, it has really been a test and trial for many relationships, for many marriages. Many marriages and relationships were not able to stand the test of time throughout this pandemic. But I'm going to read a portion of this article, and then I'm going to let you watch this video, right? But because the article is interesting, it says authorities in Rochester, New York are investigating a confrontation captured on video that shows police pepper spraying a 9-year-old girl while responding to a report of family trouble, officials said Sunday. So there's some problems going on in that household, and the father wasn't there. So when the girl acted out, the moms called the police rather than the father. Now, you got to keep in mind, police officers are not social workers. I'm going to repeat that again. Police officers are not social workers. So when you call them, you can expect them to be police, regardless of what age they're dealing with. They're not trained to be social workers. As a matter of fact, they cannot afford to allow their emotions to get involved. Although in some cases it happened because you lash out at the officer, you resist, of course, he's going to feel some kind of way, because now he feels his life is threatened. But it says, Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren said that she directed Police Chief Cynthia Harriet Sylvian Sullivan, these long names, boy, I tell you, she must be black, to investigate last Friday's incident. And the city's police accountability board also will review what happened. This is not something that any of us should want to justify. Now, there's no justification in this at all, because it did touch my heart, man. It really, really touched my heart to hear this young girl screaming. But at the same time, I'm watching her behavior, and she's calling out for her dad. Now, maybe her behavior have a lot to do with the fact that her parents split up or there's trouble in the home, right? But you can almost tell who she feel closest to, you know, when you watch this video. This is not something that any of us should want to justify, Warren said, adding that she saw her baby's face. See, allowing your emotions to get involved, because I saw my granddaughter's face, right? When she looked at the 9-year-old girl. Now, my granddaughter is 7, but I thought about her too. But like I mentioned in prior videos, charity starts at home and it spreads abroad, right? You train up a child in the way they should go. If you don't want police pepper spraying or mishandling your child, well, maybe you should do a better job in how you raise your kids. You know, you don't justify their ill behavior, because things like this will happen. So-called black Americans forget where they are. You forget that you are behind enemy lines, although they say we're citizens. But much of us are not being treated like citizens, right? So you forget where you are. You forget who you're dealing with. Even when you decide to call police, you forget what could happen and what transpired before when other people call the police for family disputes. Unless, of course, somebody's life was in danger. Now, and I'm reading the article first for a reason. I want you guys to stick with me if you can hold out throughout the whole entire video. It says, when officers tried to move the girl into a police car to take her to a hospital, she resisted, kicking one of the officers. Anderson said, now nobody wants to be kicked. And y'all can't blame these police officers for doing what they did, because many of y'all black adults let your emotions get in the way when you had to deal with a child that was bullying your child in school, and then you decided to want to step up and want to fight that little child because that child upset you or got to your emotions. So now you want to step up and defend your child against the child, right? So y'all really can't talk about police and she's 9 years old, because we're dealing with an entirely different spirit today when you're dealing with these kids. A lot of these so-called 9-year-olds are doing adult things. And in my personal opinion and view, if you do adult things, you reap the adult awards. Again, if you do adult things, you reap adult rewards. All right? So maybe this 9-year-old girl needed this. I'm not saying it's right, but maybe this 9-year-old girl needed this, because you have so many young people out there that refuse to listen to their parents. They think they are adults. They listen to their friends. They listen to all of this bad advice out there, and then they come home and want to try to rule their parents. They disrespect their parents. They don't want to listen to their parents when their parents try to teach them the right way, if the parent is teaching them the right way. They refuse to listen and they resist. You know, so they catch an attitude quick with their parents, giving their parents a hard time, putting their parents in a position where they have to make choices that they really don't want to make. I'm sure, and I'm not justifying this woman because I don't know what happened, but I'm sure this mother did not want to call the police on her daughter, unless her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, really upset her and made her mad. I'm sure it hurt her to watch these police officers manhandle their daughter, their 9-year-old child. I'm sure it hurt her. But you also have to look at what was going on in their household, which none of us really do. So nobody really wants to be kicked, right? So these police officers did what they knew to do because they're cops. And especially when dealing with young black kids, because young black kids and black people brag about that all the time, about melanin and how, we, they try to justify being violent. We're more passionate than white people, they say, right? So nobody wants to be kicked. So they're going to handle a black child different than they handle a white child, because I'm sure that white child more than likely wouldn't have been acting like this girl was. I'm sure they get their handful, but when it comes to a 9-year-old child, they're not going to handle your child like they handle their own. They're just not going to do it. Mainly because of the experiences that they have out in the street when out there policing, right? So you can't look at this girl and say she's 9 years old and the police are racist and they did all this nonsense. That's bullcrap. Until you actually put on a uniform and a gun and you get out there and you work with the community, you got nothing to say. You really have nothing to say when it comes to the law enforcement officer, because you have a lot of black people that refuse to apply to be a law enforcement officer so that you can make the difference. How many black people out there trying to make a difference in law enforcement so that this type of nonsense won't happen? And the ones that are in law enforcement, how many black people are speaking out against what's happening? Whoa, but maybe because of the fact of their experience with your child that you didn't raise up correctly, right? It says body camera video released by the police department Sunday shows authorities handcuffing the girl while she repeatedly screamed for her father and refused to get in the vehicle. You're acting like a child, one of the officers says at that point. You see, they're not seeing her as a child. They're seeing her as a threat. She says in response, "I am a child." She can be heard responding. In the video, officers can be heard saying that they would pepper spray her if she continued to resist. When another officer did, Anderson said the effects of that didn't work. See, so I'm thinking Tommy Sotomayor with his BT-100s. Maybe he'll have a different name for like the little girls, but the pepper spray didn't help. The girl was still resisting and kicking. And some of y'all might say, well, because she had pepper spray in her eyes. Well, she was doing that before she was pepper sprayed. It says it isn't clear what happened before or after the video, which was edited by police, though Anderson said the girl was eventually taken to Rochester General Hospital and released. I want to read that part where it says why she was taken. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, because there was a reason why they, the moms called. If I can't find it, I'm gonna tell you what it said. Okay, the article I read, it said that the reason why the girl was taken into custody was because of the fact that she was threatening to harm herself and her mother. So she was threatening to kill herself and harm her mother. And I'm sure it's in this article. I just probably overlooked it. Let me see. Here we go. And I probably read it already, but just, was moving too fast with my thoughts because there's just so much that's going on in my mind regarding this article. It says police were called after a report that the girl was threatening to harm herself and her mother. Right? So this girl was making threats to harm herself, so she was at home. There was some problems going on there. But the thought comes in my mind, why didn't she call the father instead of police? Because you know what's going to happen when you have an unruly child regardless of what age, and the police come, right? And again, a lot of y'all don't want to be police officers. You don't want to work for police, right? You want to criticize police, say F the police. This is your mindset and your mentality. So when things like this happen, you can't complain. You know, and I'm sure the mother, it hurt her heart to see her little daughter scream. But then again, she was probably thinking, maybe it's time for her to go live with her dad. Or like some women do, put him in foster care. But there seemed to be a lot of hostility towards mothers lately. You know, there was a 17-year-old. There was a 22-year-old that shot his moms. The 17-year-old shot his whole family, but shot his moms in the head because they made sure they highlight that. And then you had that little white kid that was showing hostility towards his moms. You know? So I'm going to play the video. I want you guys to watch it for yourself. And then you know, subscribe, click on the Cash App, support the channel. But let me make sure my volume is up, because sometimes it's low.
I want my dad. I'm not getting in no car until I see my dad.
Here, just stop for a second.
I want my dad. I want my dad. No.
Stop. Kick us, dude.
Oh my God. Okay. Wait, my mom, she's pregnant.
Are you done?
My mom pregnant. Stop. I want my dad. Wait, can I just please get the snow off of me?
I'll get the snow off.
It is cold.
Get in the car. You had your chance.
Get in the car now.
Okay? Okay? You've had your chances. Sit up.
No.
You're acting like a child.
I'm a child.
Let's go back to the house. Stand up. Stand up.
Yeah, let's go.
Stand up. Let's stand up.
Get up. Come on.
I want my dad.
I can't hurt. She's on the
Stand
side.
up. Stand up. Stand up.
Officer. I'm right here.
You're going to get tired.
I want to get officer.
Stand up.
Please, stand up for me.
Okay, he'll get off of you. You have to get up, okay? Will you get up? Can you look over? I got her. I got her. Hey, I don't want to. Sit back. Sit back. Come on.
I want my
Just do the next chance, otherwise pepper spray's going in your eyeballs. Come on, let's go.
I want my dad.
I'm gonna go get him. Now sit back. Come on. I will fix it. I will fix it.
Just stop.
Please. I will get your dad,
No,
okay?
you said that you were gonna pepper spray me. No, please, no, stop.
Sit back.
I got a bad
Just
one.
put a sprayer.
No, I have
Just
a bad
here at this
one.
point.
Stop.
Here. I got her. I got her.